The White House says President Biden has been briefed on the fire and collapse on I-95 and has been in contact with Governor Shapiro and Philadelphia's mayor. The president was already set to visit Philadelphia this coming Saturday for the first rally of his re-election campaign. Officials were also concerned about the environmental effects of runoff into the nearby Delaware River. Governor Shapiro says there was a slight sheen where water enters the river, so the Coast Guard deployed floating barriers, also known as booms, to contain the spill. Shapiro says there is no threat to the river water or to anyone's drinking water. Now, roads like I-95 and our own highways here in the Mid-State are how the vast majority of Americans get around. But why is public transportation falling so far behind private cars? Seth Kaplan live in Harrisburg with the story on that. Good afternoon, Seth.
Hey, James. Yeah, I'm actually standing at the closest bus stop to my own home here in Harrisburg. Actually, also just a few blocks away from ABC 27. I walk to work most days. It's the number 3 bus that passes by here, runs from here and uptown into downtown Harrisburg. One of the busier routes actually in the merged rapid transit system, the part of the system that used to be called Capital Area Transit, or CAT. The problem is when I say busiest is a very relative term these days. The whole system is a lot less busy than before COVID. And with some remote workers, like state government workers, not coming back to the office full-time anytime soon, transit leaders are asking themselves what they can do to make the system more attractive. 2 answers they've come up with:
speed and frequency. How often does the bus come? And how long does it take to go to and from where you're trying to go? And so, when the bus comes once every hour or once every hour and a half, how viable is that service?
Kind of a rhetorical question, right? The answer is obvious. Not very viable. And so the number 3 bus that passes by here is a good example. From here to, let's say, the government buildings or the hospital downtown, it'd be 10 or 12 minutes in a car. On the bus, it's more like a half hour. And part of it is the bus makes stops, but also it sort of deviates over, if you're familiar with Harrisburg, to Uptown Plaza, over past 6th Street, goes out of way. And that's if you're lucky enough to time it out right, because this bus only comes by every 45 minutes, and that's more frequent than some buses. So the question, what do you do about that? And we talked with Richard Farr, who you saw there, more about that. There are actually a couple routes, one here in Harrisburg, one in York, where we'll be later today, where they are looking at making them faster, straightening them out, having fewer stops so that the bus goes more frequently. I'm going to tell you about that coming up later. Also, the fact that when we talk about ridership since before COVID, there's a bigger story here. The drop actually started long before COVID. Talk about that too, beginning at 5 o'clock tonight. Right now we are live in Harrisburg. Seth Kaplan, ABC 27 News.
Seth, you kind of have like a chicken or the egg situation though here, where you just said that there's not many bus riders in the first place. So making the buses come there more frequently, will that really solve that problem, or is that just spending money that they don't have on more resources for people who aren't riding the bus?
Fair question. And what you have, James, are sort of 2 broad categories of people. People who maybe don't own cars and depend on the bus no matter what. But then you have people who can make a choice to use transit. And so what they see as the opportunity is those people who they might even have a car, but let's say, talk about a place like this, if they work downtown, they work at the hospital, if the bus were more convenient, some people, even if they have cars, might take the bus because they, I don't have to deal with parking, pay to park, all that sort of thing. If the bus were a 20-minute ride instead of a 10-minute car ride, it might be perfectly rational, right, for them to do that. Whereas when it's this slow and this infrequent, it's not. So that's what they're trying to do is make it more attractive to more people.
We will see if they can make that happen. Seth Kaplan, live for us in Harrisburg. Thank you very much for that.